Hey everyone, my name is Dillon Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director of GeekVibesNation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast. And welcome to a brand new episode of No Streaming Required, your weekly deep dive into all the latest and greatest in the world of physical media. It is that special time again. It is that time of the month where we get to talk about one of my absolute favorite labels, the Warner Archive. Yes, we are once again exploring the Warner Archive. We get to discuss some of the new releases that are coming out and also spotlight some older releases that may have not been on your radar whenever they were first released, because the Warner Archive has been in existence for over a decade and they have so many great releases, and it would be a shame to miss out on some of those early ones that are still really great to this day. But that is not the only thing we'll be talking about this episode. We will also be showing some love to other branches of Warner Brothers, the mainline Warner Brothers Home Entertainment. We have some great 4K upgrades that I'm excited to talk about. But this is a Warner Archive episode, so I'm going to start with them. And one that I was very excited about. Anyone who watches regularly knows I'm a huge fan of Hanna-Barbera, and is another one of their releases is a complete series of Wacky Races. Yes, I'm finally getting to upgrade another one of my older DVDs with this 2-disc set comprised of all 17 episodes on these 2 discs, newly restored in 4K from the original camera negative. Judging from my old DVDs to this, huge upgrade. These look really, really great on Blu-ray. It is a classic series where Dick Dastardly and Muttley are part of a group of racers who are competing to be the wackiest racer in kind of like a free-for-all driving experience. Sometimes the parameters aren't completely clear, but it's a lot of fun just seeing Dick Dastardly repeatedly failing to enact his plan of sabotage, and exploring all the other racers that are involved and stuff. And I hope we get one of the spin-off with Penelope Pitstop at some point in the future, The Perils of Penelope Pitstop. I think that would be another great upgrade. But as it is now, this Wacky Races Blu-ray, it's a lot of fun. Like I said, 17 episodes, newly restored in 4K, and they look amazing. Such bright colors and so vivid. No blown highlights, no compression artifacts, anything of that sort. Everything's been cleaned up very well. Its filmic qualities are still intact, so nothing has been like egregiously DNR'd or anything like that. Warner Archive, typically when they handle their own restorations, they keep things as organic as possible, and that is the case here, where everything looks really, really nice. I haven't noticed any anomalies or anything. This has just been taken really great care of. So Wacky Races, for you Hanna-Barbera fans, I don't think you'll be disappointed. You have lossless DTS 2.0 audio, maintaining its original mono soundtrack. And you also get the previously available special features. I believe most of them have been carried over, including like a quartet of commentary tracks and some brief featurettes. These Hanna-Barbera cartoons are a really big piece of my childhood, and I'm so glad that Warner Archive keeps on digging into that vault and making sure these are given the best restorations possible. So if you're a fan of Hanna-Barbera, Wacky Races, the complete series will not let you down. 2 discs of a lot of great fun moments, and really recommend it for you Hanna-Barbera fans. Keeping stuff a little bit lighthearted, but a little bit more drama thrown in, we're going to the live action forum for the Oscar-nominated Lili. This stars Leslie Caron and Mel Ferrer, Jean-Pierre Armand, Zsa Zsa Gabor. So this wasn't nominated for Best Picture, but it got several nominations, including for Leslie Caron as the titular Lili, who is an orphan who, after the death of her father, she is told that she can rely on a specific person who runs like a shop in this small town to help her out. She goes to visit this shop, which happens to no longer be in business. But while she is there, she ends up getting mixed up with a carnival and kind of becomes kind of a part of a carnival family. And there's like this gruff guy who deals with puppets and stuff, who she doesn't really get along with, but she gets along with the puppets. And then there's this guy that she's kind of like more goo-goo-eyed over, who may not be as valiant as she has in her head. She's a little bit naive and stuff to the world, but she really is gaining a greater sense of self while she's at the carnival and really just learning about herself. But she is also the type of like ray of light that kind of affects everyone around her, and it just kind of makes the whole mood of the carnival that much better. Everyone falls in love with Lili, and that's just kind of like the comedic and dramatic balance that this works with very well. It's kind of like, it has some musical moments that are this was nominated for original score, and it's very buoyant and just very fun. But then there's also some good dramatic moments as well to give it a little bit of narrative heft. So it's not just like a frothy affair. It's a good balance. I really enjoyed this. I found it very charming, and I'm glad this was put on my radar by the Warner Archive. If you're a fan of this movie, you'll be very pleased with this. It has been given a 4K restoration from the Technicolor negatives. Being a Technicolor movie, this looks really amazing on Blu-ray. Just really bold, vibrant colors, no compression artifacts or anything like that. Everything looks very consistent and very nice. The original DTS 2.0 mono soundtrack has been maintained, and it sounds really great. No age-related deficiencies or anything like that. Everything just sounds very clear. Dialogue, everything like that. The music, no loss in fidelity. Everything sounds really good. This has a few MGM cartoons as well as the original trailer. This is just another effort from Warner Archive that you can't really complain about. Lili is just a really charming outing that if it sounds interesting to you at all, make sure to pick it up because it's a really nice disc from the Warner Archive. Going over more towards the film noir side of the spectrum, we have a really interesting movie from Fritz Lang, from Anthony Mann. I got ahead of myself. From Anthony Mann, we have Side Street. So this, like I said, is an Anthony Mann film starring Farley Granger and Kathy O'Donnell. And it is about a down-and-out young man whose wife is close to giving birth. He's kind of really desperate, and in a feat of desperation, he robs this man that he knows isn't like the most upstanding man, and he thinks he's only robbing a couple $100. Turns out he gets a package full of like $30,000 that is intended, that's kind of mixed up in this very nefarious front. And he kind of gets mixed up in this criminal enterprise whenever the people whose money it is are very intent to get that money back and make sure that anyone who is responsible is dealt with appropriately. So it's kind of this really kind of man over his head situation where the stakes are very high, and people around him who get involved with the money start ending up dead. He's afraid he's going to end up dead, and he's trying to protect his wife and his forthcoming baby. It's very tense, and Anthony Mann does a really good job directing this. It has a really, really great car chase at the end in the city that is very thrilling, and it seems very dangerous, but that's what I really like about some of these old school Hollywood pictures. They didn't have the benefit of leaning on a lot of like, or on any digital effects or anything like that. So you know what you see on screen was crafted with care in real life and just executed, and how that was executed in this was very exciting. This doesn't have like a lot of big names in here, so it could be very easily overlooked. But if you like a good kind of gritty film noir, Side Street is a really good addition to the Anthony Mann filmography. Everything that Warner Archive releases from him usually hits pretty well. And this is an underrated one, underseen one, but I'm glad that it's now getting a Blu-ray presentation that is newly from the 4K restoration of the best available preservation elements, which means that the original camera negative may have not been entirely intact, but you wouldn't really notice it. There may be a slight bit of softness compared to some of the other movies that we're talking about. Really, the generational quality between the sources it's not a huge step down at all. It's a really nice, consistent looking transfer. What they can do with technology at MPI, Warner Brothers Motion Picture Imaging lab, is amazing, and they've done a really nice job with this. No specks of damage lingering. Everything's been cleaned up while retaining the original film grain. The sound is really good too. No major bits of distortion or anything like that. Maybe small bits of like hollow dialogue, but everything has been kind of honed in very well. And in terms of special features, we do get a commentary track, we get some featurettes, we get a short film, we get cartoons. So in terms of special features, this is one of the new ones that has a little bit more meat on the bone than some. So make sure to check it out if it sounds interesting to you at all. Side Street, a good release from Warner Archive. Continuing the new releases with another star vehicle. This time we have Gary Cooper in the Springfield Rifle. This is Gary Cooper in a mode where he is a Union soldier who has to go undercover as a Confederate soldier to try to figure out who is behind this horse theft ring that is really kind of crippling some of the Union efforts. And so he is going so deep undercover that not even his wife knows that his seeming desertion is falsehood. And that kind of conjures up a whole extra layer of drama and everything. But Gary Cooper is very good in this. It's a good kind of wartime tale during the Civil War. And Gary Cooper, he just does a really nice job in this one. I really quite enjoyed it. And it's just, if you enjoy Cooper in any capacity, I think you'll have fun with this. It's kind of like a mixture of wartime effort and Western effort. This has been given a really nice 4K restoration from the original camera negative. So all the photography looks very nice. No nicks or scratches or anything like that. The audio also sounds really good and tight. Nothing seems off or anything at all. This has been given some cartoons, some restored cartoons, some short films, and a trailer. So if you're a Gary Cooper fan, this is another good one for his filmographies. Springfield Rifle, it's a fun outing. And I mentioned kind of a Western ethos on that one. It only makes sense that I talk about a huge release from the Warner Archive, one of their most impressive that I've seen to date. This is super ambitious, but they really knocked it out of the park with the complete series of Cheyenne. Yes, 7 seasons, all 7 seasons of Cheyenne. That is 107 episodes here, and yes, if you think that I did not watch all 107 episodes, you would be correct, because I am not superhuman, but I have sampled this as much as possible, and so far I am really enjoying this set. Most of these seem to be hour-long episodes, and they have all been restored from the original camera negative. I had not really had a chance to watch Cheyenne in the past. I'm sure I've caught an episode here or there whenever my folks had the Western channel on when I was younger, but this is my first time really honing in onto this series about the titular Cheyenne, whose backstory seems to be a little retconned at times. It seems like, at least at some point in his upbringing, he was brought up by some Native Americans until he kind of transitioned over to being brought up by some foster parents after his parents were killed by Native Americans as an infant. That's kind of, like I said, dealt with and talked about in episodes in different ways, but basically, he's a large, noble lawman who gets into different adventures every week, and he's just really he's sympathetic despite his upbringing of his parents being killed by Native Americans. He does have sympathy and an understanding of Native Americans, while also trying to do what is right for whoever he's trying to help any given episode. That leads to a lot of cool guest stars and stuff, and just a really solid vocal performance from our lead here. This if you watch too many back to back, it might begin to get a little bit like samey. So probably couldn't watch more than like 3 or 4 at a time. I would recommend probably in order to avoid burnout. But it is quite an entertaining series. I haven't noticed, based on my kind of skipping around, any huge like dip in quality or anything. This is just a really solid classic Western. It's one of the first television series to extend past, or hour-long series to extend past a single season early on. And this was produced by Warner Brothers, so it had kind of a cinematic feel that not a lot of series at the time had. So just this is quite a bit of fun. I think any Western fans this is probably a dream come true, considering a set this extensive and with this taken with this much care probably wasn't believed to be in the cards anytime soon. But Warner has been taking a lot of chances with their old school television series over the last year. And I think they've really been paying off. I think they're very valuable for fans of these classic series because these have been restored from a 4K restoration of the original camera negative. All 107 episodes. Everything that I've watched so far looks really great. No lingering damage or anything. Really nice natural film grain remaining. Everything just looks as perfect as you could hope. Not too many episodes are put on one disc, not overly compressed or anything, so that's very helpful as well. Everything's been carefully allocated per disc. Each season's been given its own case, and Blu-ray size packaging here, no DVD size packaging. So Warner Archive really has put all of their best feet forward on this particular release. Not a ton in the way of special features. You do get a featurette on the first season set. But just to have these episodes in such great quality in one set and just with the quality that Warner Archive usually provides, that's really all you could ask for. They're one of the best in the business, and they've done a really nice job with this. Like I said, this is one of their biggest sets to date. So many discs here, nearly 40 discs, I believe. This is just magnificent. So if you're a fan of this series, make sure to check it out. Make sure to purchase it because Warner Archive, they really are taking a chance putting out a set this deluxe. And if you want more of the same in the future for maybe your favorite Western or other classic series from Warner, I think proving that people will show up for them whenever they put out quality work is the best way forward. So I highly recommend Cheyenne. It's a really good Western series, a Western classic that's been given a really, really great release. Audio visuals is fantastic. And yes, do not pass this up if you're a Western fan. It's a really, really great release. Jumping forward several decades and switching up genres a little bit, we have the Michael Keaton drama Clean and Sober. Now, I will admit, I typically am not the biggest fan of addiction dramas just because there's something in me that I usually just kind of get a little bit irritated with addiction dramas. But this one actually I found pretty compelling. So it's Michael Keaton as a drunk who's he's also into like cocaine and stuff, who is at the beginning of the movie really gets himself into a bind. And he checks himself into a rehab program to kind of buy himself some time in order to not kind of get backed into a corner. I'm trying to be pretty vague with stuff. But that turns out to be the best decision that he could have made, because even though he didn't check into rehab for the most virtuous reasons, he does slowly start to kind of find some benefits to rehab. That Morgan Freeman plays one of the counselors. He meets a lot of people on the inside who are also trying to stay clean and everything, including a very good Kathy Baker. And just seeing him trying to work the program, stay sober, trying to go from like a kind of a careless asshole to someone who is trying to be a better person and everything. I really did find myself more invested. Maybe because Keaton's performance is so good. But something about it just really kept me hooked. And yes, he can be a little bit annoying, especially in terms of after he gets out of rehab and how he acts with other characters and everything. I found his pushiness a little bit off-putting at times, but other than that, I found this to be a really good drama, and Keaton is fantastic in this role. He is kind of a scumbag, but he is also in that lovable mode where you really don't like some of the things he's doing, but he is so charming that you kind of forgive him for being just a little bit too much at times. But this is a really stirring drama. It's effective, and even if you don't usually like addiction dramas, I think this one is executed well enough that it brings a little bit something extra to the table that makes it more compelling. So this has been given a 4K restoration of the original camera negative. This looks very, very good. Natural film grain, all the colors and everything look good. Everything looks very nice. There is an issue with this disc, and Warner knows about this, and they are planning a replacement program. This was accidentally put out with a mono soundtrack when it should have been a stereo soundtrack. This has happened a couple of times this year, and in my discussions with Warner, they are keenly aware of this. They are very distraught that so many things have happened this year that have required replacement programs, but they are very dedicated to rectifying anything that goes wrong, and they are trying to do everything in their power to make sure that there are safeguards in place that nothing like this happens again in the future. So they will be issuing a replacement program. I will let you know about that. They have recently implemented another replacement program, which I'll talk about here in just a second, with one of the corrected discs. And there is also a replacement program for some missing special features on the Wait Till Your Father Gets Home complete series, which you can also look on the Warner Archive social media and stuff. I'll try to also link to that in the special features. If you have that original pressing of Wait Till Your Father Gets Home, there is a replacement program through MovieZing where you can get that new disc with the special features missing. So there will be a corrected disc with the stereo audio here, so I cannot judge the audio accurately here, but otherwise the video quality looks good, and it has a theatrical trailer. So outside the obvious of this needing a replacement disc, if you get it and it's not been corrected, you can reach out eventually to MovieZing and get a corrected disc. But as of now, I think this will be a really great release once that gets corrected. But already this looks nice visually, so I can only imagine it will sound great like when we get there. The mono track isn't bad, it's just not how it's supposed to sound. So Michael Keaton fans, make sure to check out Clean and Sober. It is surprisingly very good, even if you don't like addiction dramas. So as mentioned, there was another replacement program needed. This was caught a little bit earlier, and so I did not get the original pressing. This is Just Friends, the Ryan Reynolds and Amy Smart comedy. So this was originally sent out with 2.0 audio instead of the surround soundtrack and missing a lot of the special features. So now this has been corrected. So if you have the original disc that does not have like 5.1 sound or all the special features, make sure to reach out to MovieZing. Like I said, I'll try to include that in the description of the episode, where you can reach out and everything and get your replacement disc. But if you have the corrected disc, it's a really good release for this holiday comedy. So this is a Christmas movie where Ryan Reynolds plays a man who, when he was younger, he had a huge crush on Amy Smart's character, but she wanted to be just friends, and this kind of sent him on a spiral in the other way. He was a really nice guy. He kind of become like a jaded asshole over the years. We go 10 years later, and he's made a big success of himself. He shed a little bit of weight. He's lost his acne, all that kind of stuff. And it is Christmas time, and he finds himself back in his hometown, potentially trying to win over Amy Smart's character once again. while competing with his old nemesis, Chris Klein. And then also he has an artist played by Anna Faris, who's a little kooky and everything and very funny, and who kind of tags along with him and kind of complicates things. So it's like a comedy of errors and misunderstandings and all that kind of stuff. All set during the Christmas season. Always feels weird to watch a Christmas movie outside of the holidays, but for Warner Archive, I'll do it. But I watched this movie several times in the past when it first came out, and over the years, a couple times for my Christmas holidays. I always find it pretty amusing. There are some things that don't age particularly well in terms of like fat phobia and everything. But if you look over some of the problematic issues, it is a pretty funny movie, and while Ryan Reynolds can occasionally be a bit much these days, I think it works for this character here, and I overall do like him. It's just, yeah, but I think it's a pretty funny movie. I'm glad this finally got a US Blu-ray release. It's been a long time coming. I don't know why it's taken so long. I believe this had been released in Canada before. From everything I hear, that was a single layer Blu-ray 25 disc that more than likely uses the same HD master. I'm not completely certain. I've never owned that disc, but this is a dual layer disc, so at worst, I think that would probably be the same master, but now encoded a little bit better on a dual layer disc for a little bit better compression quality and everything like that. I don't think it's like a fresh like 4K master or anything like that, but it does look very nice and consistent and everything. Nice bold holiday colors. Everything looks pretty nice and crisp and everything. Maybe slight bit of softness, but everything looks pretty natural and everything. 5.1 audio sounds really great and full and really fills the room. No audio deficiencies there. And then all the special features are very entertaining. There's a lot of them on here. So that includes a commentary track, blooper reel, deleted scenes, various featurettes, theatrical trailer, music videos, lots of stuff on here. So if you're a fan of this one, Just Friends, finally on Blu-ray in the US, so make sure to pick that up. I think you'll be very pleased with this one. It's a very funny cast and a pretty funny movie. My final new release from the Warner Archive is Three the Hard Way. This has Jim Brown, Fred Williamson, and Jim Kelly as our three leads. And this is a blaxploitation movie where this trio are going against some white supremacists who have developed like a virus, serum, whatever, that they're going to infect the water supply that has been genetically engineered, chemically engineered to only affect Black people. And they are trying to take these white supremacists down. So it's a very heightened story of action and intrigue. And it's very entertaining. These three, they're kicking ass a lot of the times. There's surprisingly like complex sequences that are executed here. And it's just a lot of fun. I especially like Jim Kelly and like some of there's like a sequence in like kind of like a car wash area where he's like beating a lot of people up that I find very fun, and just a lot of just how this is executed. It's a blast, and I really enjoy this one. I know a lot of people were really anticipating Three the Hard Way on Blu-ray, and it lived up to all that hype that had been built up for me over the years. And this has been treated very well on Blu-ray. 4K restoration of the original camera negative. No lingering damage. Everything looks very nice, natural. It's what you expect from the Warner Archive. Everything looks great. Sound is good as well. The original 2.0 audio. You do get a trailer for this one. No other special features. But maybe most importantly is the newly discovered original theatrical presentation of this film, which adds extra footage that has been left off a lot of the previous home video versions of this movie. Is previously 89 minutes upon its release. Now it's been upgraded to 97 minutes. So 8 more minutes of footage. I've never seen this before to know what the unique footage is. But just knowing that you now have the complete version on home entertainment, I think is a big win for this film. If you're a fan of the film, that will be probably enough to get you to upgrade. Not that you weren't going to anyway, but that's just another extra incentive to have its most complete version possible. Great 4K presentation, 4K restoration on Blu-ray, audio great, and then just the complete theatrical version of the movie. Great release from the Warner Archive. Very, very pleased with this one. It's a great blaxploitation movie if you're a fan, with a really great cast. And since I had Jim Brown in this movie, I had to go back and look at this movie that was released by the Warner Archive back in 2018. And that is the really brutal Dark of the Sun. Yeah, like I said, we have Jim Brown starring alongside Rod Taylor and Yvette Mimieux as some mercenaries who kind of go into this Congolese war zone effort. They're hired to evacuate some people who are being basically held hostage by these rebel insurgents. And also, while they're there are also some very valuable gems that they are also supposed to rescue. And they have to partner with some very problematic people, including some ex-Nazis, who they really kind of get into scuffles with a lot of times, and more the tension that is on this trip in order to find these people and save them, and also the breaking of ranks and stuff, and like not being able to trust the people you're fighting alongside. It's very, very entertaining. It's very brutal. And it has a PG rating back here, but this is an old school PG rating, which means it would probably get an R or just maybe a very heavy PG-13, but it's a very brutal movie in terms of just how some of the characters is dispatched or everything. This isn't during like Hays Code era. They were really going for it on this one. If you like old school, like dirty action movies, like Dirty Dozen-esque, or like Sam Peckinpah stuff, Dark of the Sun, I think you'll have a lot of fun with. Right, Rod Taylor's a great lead in this one, but Jim Brown, as I was trying to make the connection to Three the Hard Way, Jim Brown probably is the highlight of this movie. He's kind of like the balance of like morality with like kicking ass and taking names. He's great in this one. This isn't just a movie that is like mindless violence or anything. You really are left with kind of like an questioning of like morality and what is morally right, even whenever bad things happen to you, and like how you're supposed to respond to that. This works very well. It's very entertaining. And this is a really nice Blu-ray. Like I said, it was released in 2018. This was from a 4K scan of the original camera negative. For the most part, I was told by my contacts at Warner Archive that some of the original materials, like the original negative, had been handled to such an extent that some of it had been degraded. So there were some safety separation elements that were kind of spliced into this transfer for any area of the original camera negative that was not in good enough shape to use. But for the most part, it is the original camera negative, and any of the splice ends or anything from the separate safety separations are not really noticeable. Everything is very consistent and just what you want from a nice transfer. They did a really, really nice job with this one. Cleaned up to great effect, no major damage or flickering or fluttering, really good color saturation, and the soundtrack, the audio sounds really good as well. So really, like, the 2.0 audio sounds good. It has a commentary track and a trailer. No complaints with this one. It's been treated very well by the Warner Archive. So if this interests you at all, if you want something a little hardcore, Dark of the Sun, very much worth checking out. Not quite as intense, but still a fun adventure. The Golden Arrow, which was released in 2019 by the Warner Archive. This is kind of like a Sword and Sandals-esque tale with a little bit of fantasy thrown in about a kind of a bandit played by Tab Hunter who goes to participate in kind of this feat of strength where anyone who can successfully pull back this like sacred bow with this golden arrow and shoot it off will win the hand of like this princess. No one can really do it. He is planning to kind of pull a scam, but even a surprise to himself, he is able to pull back this bow, which indicates that has kind of like something special about him. But he kind of rejects this, and kind of rejects kind of his almost destiny in order to try to continue his own plan, which eventually ends up going back to needing to fulfill his destiny and be with the princess and stop the ne'er-do-wells and all that kind of stuff. So it's a really fun, like I said, magical tale, because there's like these like spiritual entities who kind of guide him as kind of like a moral compass and like guides. And like this golden arrow has like a mystical quality and how it kind of works and everything. And yeah, it's not like the most amazing movie, but I did enjoy it. I think it's kind of like, if you like kind of like a old school period, like desert adventure, the Golden Arrow is entertaining enough. This was directed by Antonio Margheriti. This was like an Italian production that during that time, whenever they would film dialogue, they would film kind of with no on-set dialogue and everything would be dubbed over. So whenever you're looking at the audio quality here, you will notice that there's not always like a completely perfect sync to the English dub that is here. But everything still renders pretty well, but you're not going crazy if you're like, are those lips not matching to the dialogue? It's just the product of how it was filmed and how it was dubbed. It's usually pretty close, but it's not perfect. But video-wise, it's really nice. 2K scan of the intrapositive. And it's a really nice looking transfer. Nice. Like I said, this is like kind of more of a desert tale. So not a lot of super bold colors, but some of the costumes and production design do liven things up a little bit visually. Audio is 2.0. Sounds really good. And only a trailer only a trailer to support this one. But if you're a fan of these kind of tales, the Golden Arrow, it's a good Blu-ray release. Staying in my period piece grind, we also go back to 2019 for this Fritz Lang, as I mentioned earlier, Fritz Lang movie Moonfleet, which is kind of like a pirate tale that's not on the water. It's set on on the moors. You have Stuart Granger as a man who's kind of the leader of these bandits, who one day there is a young boy who comes to get his help. His mother has passed away, but left like a letter saying, if you are ever in need of help, find this man who will take care of you for me and stuff, because like we were close when we were younger. And so he kind of comes into this like found family of like these people who are not exactly law-abiding citizens, but they try to take him under their wing and teach the young boy kind of their way of life. But it's also conflicting with his kind of sense of morality, and he kind of discovers different things that maybe he doesn't want to kind of live this kind of pirate-esque life. So there's a lot of stuff going on here in terms of like found family and responsibility and morality and all this kind of stuff. And a little bit of like swashbuckling fun here. So Moonfleet, I had fun with this one. Stuart Granger was the star of one of the first Warner Archive movies I ever reviewed for Geek Vibes Nation, Beau Brummel. So it's fun to like always return to him and just kind of go back to my roots. But he's really good in this, and this is a really good presentation. Like I said, released in 2019. 2K scan of the interpositive, looks very nice, consistent. No, everything I usually say about Warner Archive applies here. Just no density fluctuation, damage, anything like that. 2.0 audio and a trailer, so not deep with special features, but just a nice audio visual presentation for this Fritz Lang film that fits a little bit irregular in his filmography, but he does a nice job with this one. And then my final Warner Archive proper release is a movie I thought I'd seen before, but once I watched it, I realized I had not. It is the Tennessee Williams adaptation of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. I realized that I was getting this confused with A Streetcar Named Desire, but I'm a little bit hot and cold with Tennessee Williams material. He can be a little bit overly melodramatic and kind of ridiculous at times with his dialogue, and there's a little bit of that in here, but I actually ended up being very compelled by this one. I ended up really liking it. So you have Elizabeth Taylor as the cat, Maggie the cat, who is married to Paul Newman, who is a man who's very much struggling at the beginning of this movie. He has recently broken his leg during a drunken stupor. He has a lot of demons that he's wrestling with. He is not connecting with his wife. He's kind of resentful of her. There's a lot of stuff going on in this family dynamic. But this all is taking place at the same time where the family patriarch, Big Daddy, played by Burl Ives, is coming back to the estate. He has recently had a health scare. And this health scare kind of stirs the pot where Paul Newman's brother and his wife are really gunning to kind of take control of this estate, take what they think belongs to them, while all this kind of family drama is happening. And once you really get, like, this really takes place over like a whole night and everything. So once you really get into like Burl Ives and Paul Newman having their discussions, like, we are going to have a discussion about your attitude, what's going on with you, your feelings, and really get down to the meat of things. Whenever those discussions start happening and everything really starts ramping up, I was riveted. I really enjoyed it. I found it very interesting. There's a lot of subtext in here that you could, it's barely veiled subtext you can read into, as Tennessee Williams is wont to do. But this is led by some fantastic performances. As much as I got annoyed by the kind of conniving like siblings and his wife and everything, I found I was still always just so transfixed by this story and everything, and I really ended up quite enjoying it. And everyone's just giving such a great performance. But as much as, like, yes, like Elizabeth Taylor, fantastic, and she's like the focus here, but Burl Ives was really who I was impressed by the most. Just like his presence on screen, and like he kind of surprised me how his character acted throughout the movie. He wasn't just a one-note character. I really enjoyed it. So consider me a fan of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. This was one of the earlier Warner Archive releases, so going back to 2016 with this one, 2K scan of the inner positive. Looks really fantastic, though. This looks really nice. Never would know that's not from the original camera negative because you got nice bold colors, no damage. Everything's been restored very well. I think this is one of kind of the more high-profile titles from the Warner Archives earlier days, but they did a really nice job with it, of taking care of it. In terms of special features, you do get a commentary track, featurettes, and a trailer, 2.0 audio. This is really just a really nice release for Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Glad to finally own it and watch it. Very surprised by it, but very good movie. Now, this is normally where I would conclude the episode because we are done talking about Warner Archive, but we are extending the love to the Warner Brothers family at large, and talking about a lot of great releases they have on deck. First of which is the 4K debut of The Good German from director Steven Soderbergh, the first of two Steven Soderbergh movies I'm talking about this episode. And not only is it the 4K debut, this is also the Blu-ray debut of this one. So the Blu-ray also available separately if you don't want to pay for this 4K release, but you can future-proof on 4K if you want to. So this is Steven Soderbergh taking his directorial clout during the 2000s after like winning Best Director for Traffic and just like Aaron Brockovich, so many classics in the 2000s. He decided to make his own golden age film with a modern sensibility. Like, he used kind of all the appropriate cameras and sound recording equipment to capture this kind of classic tale of World War II intrigue and forgotten love and like subterfuge and all that kind of stuff, with like swearing and sexuality and all that kind of stuff thrown in to kind of like that wouldn't have flown it back at the time. So you have George Clooney, Kate Blanchett, Tobey Maguire as our main leads. This is not my absolute favorite Soderbergh by any means, but it is one that I do quite respect, and I did have a good time with it. I've actually seen it before. It was quite a long time ago, probably over a decade ago since I last seen this, but I did enjoy revisiting it. While I still do have problems with it, I do find it very fascinating. Really good performances, as you would expect from this level of talent. And a really good visual style. It's very like it's black and white stylized, and Soderbergh really just created a really interesting frame here. I enjoyed it. I was very surprised it got a 4K release, but I'm down for any Soderbergh movie to get a 4K release. This does come in Dolby Vision, which a lot of the manufactured on demand 4Ks seem to get whenever the mainline doesn't always, which I'll talk about here in a second. But Dolby Vision looks fantastic, black and white, great contrast. Everything is very tight and controlled. No damage or anything like that, no compression artifacts. It's a really nice transfer for this one. Like I said, he used a lot of like the technology, like cameras and audio equipment that would have been appropriate for like the original time this was kind of set in. So you do get a little bit of like deficiencies, but it's more of like a creative choice in terms of like some of the audio isn't always the most crisp and clear, but it's kind of accurate to what the sound recording equipment would have been at the time. But in DTS 5.1, so it's a little bit more expansive than that time, but it's pretty accurate. So audio visual wise, I think it's very authentic to how this is supposed to look. So very glad this got a 4K release. So if you're a fan of these actors or the director, very much worth checking out. Even if it's not a perfect movie, but it's a very intriguing movie. It's very much worth checking out. Audio, like I said, audio visual, pretty solid. No real special features besides a trailer, but very good release from Warner Brothers. But another Soderbergh release getting a 4K upgrade. This one had been on Blu-ray before, and as such, there's not a Blu-ray in this. This is The Informant with Matt Damon. So tackling another one from the Ocean's crew. We got Clooney on the last one, Matt Damon on this one. Just a 4K release here. This is one I had seen in theaters back in the day, and I had not seen it since. So it was fun revisiting this one. Matt Damon is fantastic as a man who works at a company where he thinks that there is some shady stuff going down. So he decides that he has no choice but to inform to the FBI, and that just sends him down like a crazy series of like undercover sting operations and everything, where he's kind of like providing this voiceover throughout. Just like his internal monologue is insane. He's really just like has an inflated sense of self, and just some of his like non sequiturs are hilarious. And then as things go, you kind of learn more about all of this, and things kind of get a little bit more recontextualized in really interesting ways. So Matt Damon, his character is very annoying, but very hilarious, and like he's purposefully annoying, and I think it works very well. He's like playing this character perfectly. It is a comedy, but it's almost like a dark comedy where you're not always laughing out loud all the time, but once you kind of get on its rhythm, you'll find it very darkly humorous. And it is based on a true story, so that adds an extra level of intrigue to this as well. And yeah, 4K wise, I've never had this on Blu-ray before, but this does have a very distinct style. This is in Dolby Vision, but Soderbergh on this one really takes an aggressive approach to his visual style in terms of like really bold, not nuanced, dark, and like blown highlights and everything. So there are a lot of times where I was like, is this how it's supposed to like I had forgotten how kind of like orangey like a lot of the nighttime lighting was, and just kind of how I don't know. It's an aggressive grade, but it's how he intended it to look, and this isn't the most beautiful looking 4K, but if you want the film looking how it's supposed to look and without like compression artifacts or anything like that, this is the way to go. DTS 5.1 audio. This has a few more special features, including a commentary track from Soderbergh, deleted scenes, and a trailer. Not the movie I expected to get a 4K release, but very much welcome for my Soderbergh collection. Moving on to a trio of Clint Eastwood upgrades from Warner Brothers Home Entertainment, the first of which is the classic Dirty Harry, where with Clint Eastwood as Harry Callahan. His classic kind of like, do you feel lucky? Do you punk? Whole spiel is here. So Clint Eastwood is a detective who is trying to hunt down a killer who's killing people across the city and trying to put together all the clues and all the stuff. It's a classic detective tale that Clint Eastwood really excels at. This one's very entertaining. Yeah, it's Dirty Harry. It's a classic. It's my first time watching it. But I understand why it's a classic, and this 4K restoration I think was probably the best way to watch this. I say 4K restoration. It was actually an 8K scan of the original camera negative, finished in 4K in HDR10. As I mentioned, a lot of these previous films I talked about had Dolby Vision. When we get to the Warner Brothers proper line, I don't know why they don't always spring for Dolby Vision. This is HDR10, but it still looks great. It's just minor nitpicks. But HDR10 looks great. This new restoration looks fantastic. Warner Brothers tends to take a light touch. Warner Brothers proper takes a light pass on some of like the DNR and stuff. So maybe a little bit of light digital touch-ups here and there that doesn't always let the film be 100% organic film grain, but it's not overly aggressive. It's not to the point where I would recommend skipping it or anything. It's just there is a little bit of DNR where maybe they didn't need to do that, but it just seems to be something that this studio does with their mainstream 4K releases. But it still looks very nice and organic for the most part. And one thing I really have to give kudos to Warner for in the past couple of years, they've made a more concerted effort to provide the original audio. So on this one, you do have the original mono soundtrack here, along with a new Atmos soundtrack. So you have options. But I think most would tend to agree that the mono does sound the best on this one. But the Atmos track is very tasteful, and it's not a lot of like added special effects and stuff. It just expands things pretty nicely. But the mono is where it's at, in my opinion. And you get a commentary track and various featurettes carried over. So if you're a Clint Eastwood fan, a Dirty Harry fan, I look forward to checking out the rest of the films. Hopefully they'll get a 4K release at some point in the very near future. But having Dirty Harry to start us off, very much a win for Clint Eastwood fans. But as much as I love Clint Eastwood in a modern context, like his Westerns is what he's known for. And we are going back to two of them. The first of which I'm talking about is the Outlaw Josey Wales. So this is Clint as the titular outlaw whose family gets attacked at the beginning of the movie, and Josey, this real badass character, sets out on a path of revenge and gets mixed up with a motley crew of people over his journey. He loses people, he gains new enemies. There's a lot of stuff going on here, but what you do know is that Clint Eastwood is not going to stop until he gets his vengeance, and it's very entertaining. The only thing I did not like about this movie is the way he kept spitting his tobacco all over the dog. Don't be a jerk. And that, to that extent, that's just unnecessary. But otherwise, really good movie. Some things I didn't quite other than the dog stuff. I didn't quite love in terms of like sexual assault and everything. But overall, good movie from Clint. This is a new 4K master. Looks really nice, HDR10. A little bit better in terms of the DNR, not overly aggressive. Things look pretty natural. You get a Atmos track and the original mono track on this one as well. Once again, mono is the way to go for me, but Atmos track is once again very tasteful and respectful of the original sounds. You do get a commentary track and featurettes on this one as well. So Western fans, Outlaw Josey Wales, it's a good 4K release. But for my money, the Western, if you could only get one, is Pale Rider. I really enjoyed this Western outing as Clint Eastwood plays a man who is suspected, based on his wardrobe, to be a preacher who comes into town and helps the citizens get a little bit of inspiration to band against some people who are trying to take over the town. It's kind of a take on like Cheyenne, but Clint Eastwood puts his own spin on it. I really enjoyed this one. It's your classic Western tale, good versus evil, big evil forces going against the little guy and someone standing up to make things right. It's an entertaining outing from Clint. And it's not my absolute favorite Western from him. Like, I would even put Unforgiven, which is already out on 4K, a little bit above this one. But Pale Rider, very much worthy of his legacy. And this has been given a 4K remaster in HDR10, Atmos track, and a stereo track on this one. So a couple of options. Once again, sounds good. And in terms of DNR, this might actually be the most respectful in terms of like keeping things organic, not overly processed or anything like that. Just a really nice, consistent looking transfer. A little bit touches of DNR here and there, but nothing overly aggressive. And then you get a couple of featurettes on this one. Some new, some archival. But nice release for Pale Rider. Coming forward to 2025, this year, we have the new release of Bong Joon-ho's Mickey 17. This is based on a novel called Mickey 7. He bumped up the numbers a little bit. But this is Robert Pattinson as a man who is set in the future. I'll try to stay as spoiler-free as possible, but he is a man who is part of a program where he is basically tasked to go out and basically be the guinea pig for this like exploration crew. And anytime he dies, he comes back and he's able to be printed off again and like get back into the fray and everything. And it really becomes a question on like, is it humane to keep bringing Mickey back and his place in like the autonomy and everything? But also this goes hand in hand with them colonizing a new planet that already has some creatures there that the people in charge believe them to be in need of being eliminated. And whether these creatures are like harmful or not is a question, and just exploring the planet and everything. It's a good film from Bong Joon-ho, who has his previous movie won Best Picture, Parasite. It's him dabbling in his kind of weirdo sensibilities that weren't as on display with Parasites, going back to more like Oakjaw and even Snowpiercer, which I talked about on 4K a couple of months ago. I liked it quite a bit. I would just say I had high hopes for this one and it didn't quite reach them. I could see maybe going up a little bit more on repeat viewings. But on my first viewing, just slightly underwhelmed by, like, I love Robert Pattinson, I love Bong Joon-ho and everything. It just didn't quite have the nuance. Like, it seemed to be overly heavy-handed in some respects, especially when it comes to the Mark Ruffalo character. So that was a little bit disappointing. And my wife actually read the book. I did not. So I'm interested to get her. I haven't been able to do like a deep dive on this, but I'm pretty sure she probably liked the book better than this from what I've gathered from her. So maybe there's a little bit lost in translation between the novel and the source material that maybe could have been handled a little bit better. But as it is, I think this is a good movie. I just wanted to be like knock out of the park great, but still worth owning. This one is in Dolby Vision. Look, it's a brand new picture, so it looks really great. No compression artifacts, no banding, anything like that. Everything just looks really nice. Dolby Atmos audio sounds very big, bombastic. It's what you want from this story. It's a big sci-fi epic with a lot of like good visual effects and everything that I think looks really nice. Great performance from Robert Pattinson. I'm never disappointed by him. And just a lot of really good performers in here. Like I mentioned, Mark Ruffalo, even though I have problems with how his character's written, he does a good job with what he's given. Toni Collette, Stephen Yeun, and just a really just great cast for a movie that I'm a little mixed on, but Mickey 17 overall I think is worth checking out. It has a couple of featurettes on here. So if you're a fan of the movie, it's a good 4K disc for you. Now, anyone who has watched me for any amount of time knows I don't like to talk about DVD releases too often. But every now and then one comes along that I feel I need to, because it's more than likely never going to get a Blu-ray release. I've said that before, and I'll go back on that on one title I'm going to be talking about here in a second. But for now, we have the complete DVD collection of Ben 10. Now, this is a series that I began collecting back in the 2000s, back in the day. I did not complete that. I only got a couple seasons in, because it seemed like a show that would very much be my sensibilities, and the couple seasons that I watched I just kind of got left behind a little bit. And this ended up being like one of the most successful Cartoon Network shows. So I'll be very careful here. So we have stacked disc here of this has all 4 of the main original Ben 10 series. So you have Ben 10, you have Ben 10 Alien Force. There are a couple of discs like here, I believe, where they are not stacked. They are single, but most of the discs in this set are stacked, and you just get lucky whenever there's only a single disc. So Alien Force is continued for this first outing here. So those 2 are in this first part of this set, and then the second part we get the next 2 series, which we got Ben 10 Ultimate Alien. So looking over here, I'll try to show this off there, and then we would finish up over to Ben 10 Omniverse. So once again, showing that off there, and continuing on here, we got a couple of movies here as well. So Secret of the Omnitrix, Destroy All Aliens here. So like Cheyenne, I will admit I have not watched this entire set. Why? Because it would be impossible. Because there are 227 episodes and 2 movies here in this set, and I just can't. I don't have that much time, but I have sampled this as much as possible to try to give like a pretty well-rounded evaluation of how this looks and the entertainment value and everything. So as I mentioned, I'd seen Ben 10 a little bit before. I never got to the subsequent series. There is a 2016 kind of reboot series that is not included here and everything. So this is just the OG Ben 10 story and everything. So the story itself started out with Ben Tennyson. He's a 10-year-old boy who he goes on like a trip with his grandfather and his cousin, who while out in the woods one day or like one night, there is this alien technology that comes down from the sky. It kind of looks like a fancy watch. It's called an Omnitrix. It allows him to kind of turn into a series of 10 different monsters with different abilities and everything. So the story for most of like Ben 10 and everything is him kind of like figuring out his powers, what all the monsters can do and everything, what it means to be a hero with this kind of responsibility, and fighting different adversaries that cross his path. And then you kind of jump forward in time with subsequent series, and he's like a 15-year-old and dealing with different things, and people know who he is and everything. And then like it even gets to a little bit of like time hopping with the omniverse stuff. So going back and forth in time, like defeating different foes and everything. This is a fun series. I enjoy it quite a bit. And I understand why it's been so popular. It's one of the longest Cartoon Network properties. From everything I can tell, it kept a pretty consistent quality throughout these 200 plus episodes. Like I said, 220 episodes and 2 movies. And I think as a series, it is worth owning. These are all just the original DVD releases, all now packaged as one. So like the early seasons of Ben 10, they look exactly like they did whenever they first came out in the 2000s. I would love to see what this series looked like on Blu-ray. If that ever gets a Blu-ray upgrade, I will be there. But as it is, these DVDs look nice for what they are. Lossy, like 2.0 audio, Dolby Digital 2.0 audio, and random special features that were on the original sets, like trailers and stuff. Not much in the way of special, like in-depth special features. You have the 2 movies that are a part of the franchise. But mostly this is just for those who want all of the series in one go. You have this complete set, and it's as compact as possible. Yes, that comes with stacked discs, which I don't always love because it can make things a little bit more easily scratched. But as I said, from Warner Brothers, this is a good value and a good show. So make sure to check it out if you're interested. Lots of content to evaluate here, but if you're a fan of the series, I think you will be very pleased with this one. Continuing on my television dive, which I'll continue on throughout the end of the episode, we have a new series. We have the recently wrapped Superman and Lois, the 4th and final season. Now, this is a series that I've talked about before, and this was spawned from the CW Arrowverse. This is one of the last properties that we'll ever get from that kind of era. And for my money, it is one of the best that ever came from that. And this kind of ended mostly because as you people may know, we have a new Superman coming out here in a couple of months from James Gunn. Whenever he took over, there's kind of like a dictum that there wouldn't be all these kinds of like audience confusion of like, we have a Superman on television, but we have a Superman in theaters, and like we have the Flash and like all that kind of stuff. They're like, wrap all this up as much as possible. Let's get everything unified and stuff. So Superman and Lois, as great as it was kind of a casualty of that. But they used the last 10 episodes to really wrap this up in a very satisfying way. And it is actually one of the more satisfying seasons of this show that we've had, despite its creative limitations in terms of like a lot of the supporting cast members that we would normally see in this, or very reduced roles, maybe some reduced special effects, which did kind of harm it in certain ways, but overall still kept a pretty good quality. And just like the scale of it was just kind of reduced, but it did kind of help it in certain respects. This series has always been about a more personal Superman. He's a Superman with a family. He's with Lois from the beginning. He has 2 sons, and it is about like living in like Smallville and like small town life, and one of his sons wrestling with finding out he has powers and keeping this identity and the impact that it has on his life and everything, all while dealing with different adversaries that show up. And our big bad in this one is, for the most part, Lex Luthor, and he's portrayed very well here by Michael Cudlitz. It's very an intimidating, effective Lex Luthor. And what I really love about this last season is that it's focused very much on the family, and that's always what the show's done best. Yes, the kids can be annoying still, but they're not as annoying as usual. I love the relationship between Clark and Lois. How this all ends up, I was just very touched by the finale. I think it ends up at a really great place, and it's just a very satisfying conclusion to this show that has been pretty solid throughout its whole existence. It's only lasted 4 seasons, but it is one of the best things from this Arrowverse, and I did not have a chance to last so long that it would just start completely tanking creatively. This really may have been a blessing in disguise, as we got really a solid series that didn't really drop too much in terms of quality, and this is a really, really great send-off for them. No special features, but just 10 episodes over 2 discs and great audio visual quality. DTS 5.0 audio, you can't really complain about that. Good wrap up for this series that was really, really a blessing for Superman fans. Staying in the heroic realm, and I alluded to this earlier in terms of DVDs that I did not expect to get a Blu-ray upgrade, but here we are, eating my words just months after I talked about the DVD collection, so I'm not going to go too deep into this. It is the complete Blu-ray franchise of Captain Planet and the Planeteers. If you seg back to October, you will find me talking about this release in this series on DVD back last October. I did not expect this to get a Blu-ray release, but Warner, they surprised me. You get all of this franchise from the original Captain Planet to the new adventures of Captain Planet. So all like 6 seasons of the show. That is 113 episodes over 9 discs, and no real substantial special features. I've talked about this series, like I said, in last October, so I'm not going to go over it again. It's just a ecological focused superhero, great voice acting, and great adventures of the week. I quite enjoyed it. I did not expect it to get an HD upgrade, but now that I have it, it looks fantastic. These were remastered. They were the same masters used for that release, but on Blu-ray, they looked the best of their full potential. These are beautiful looking restorations. They are not perfect. There are signs that maybe some of the original elements maybe were too damaged to be completely salvaged. So there are small downturns in quality throughout some of these episodes, but for the most part, they look fantastic. Some of the opening titles, for the most part, aren't remastered, and some of the closing titles, but the episode, like the meat of the episodes themselves, largely look amazing. And I'm so pleased that this got a Blu-ray release. I did not know that this was what I was missing, but it looks fantastic on Blu-ray. It's been, like I said, restored, bold colors, no like fuzzy lines or anything. Everything looks crisp and nice, and lossless DTS 2.0 audio now. So that's another benefit. So, if you're a Captain Planet fan and you did not give in to my pitch last October when the DVD set came out, the Blu-ray is where it's at now. I'm very pleased it got this release. That, like I said, super shocking, but glad it got a Blu-ray release. It is a nice upgrade from that DVD set, and glad that it made it on Blu-ray. And finally, another new series that has just started recently. There's a second season in development. Is a 4K debut of Dune Prophecy it's the Max original series, and it's set about 10,000 years before the events of the Dune movies from Denis Villeneuve, and this is all 6 episodes of this first season. So there's 1 disc over here, 2 stacked disc over here. Hate that. They should have really been a hinged disc where there's no overlapping disc, because they're much more easily scratched this way. So I'm very nervous about that. But otherwise, very pleased by this release. It's a story, like I said, set about 10,000 years before the events of the Dune movies, based on the kind of on the Frank Herbert Sisterhood of Dune, Sisters of Dune source material, where you are following the Bene Gesserit, and here you got Emily Watson as kind of like our leader here, and she has her sister. They are the Harkonnen people, and it's really a dive into the mysterious, like, peek behind the curtain of the Bene Gesserit, and kind of how they are kind of like pulling the strings behind the scenes to try to mold the future into what they want it to be. And as we kind of see with the Dune movies, how that kind of eventually ends up in some respects. But this is really kind of, I've seen people describe it as kind of Game of Thrones-esque. It's not a particularly action-packed series. This is very talkative. It's very secrets and like hushed conversations, and there's some thrilling moments, but this is just a lot of like very intense talking, and I like that. I enjoy it. I do not have a problem not having a lot of action, but I do know a lot of people have found this boring, but I do also know a lot of people have found this very engaging. I'm more on the engaging side of the spectrum. I think it's a really well-made series. It's not to the level of a blockbuster spectacular like Dune and Dune Part 2, but Dune Prophecy, I like the cast. You got Olivia Williams, Mark Strong, Travis Fimmel. Everyone's just doing a really nice job. There's a lot of good revelations and like that keep you hooked from early on in the series. And once you get to more towards the end, things really start kind of cooking a little bit more, and it makes me more intrigued for the second season. I know a lot of people were very mixed on this, but if you like the series, if you've sampled it on Max and you do like it, this is a really good 4K presentation in HDR10 and Dolby Atmos audio. Really, it looks really good. It's not a particularly vibrant looking series, a lot of like neutral colors, but all those shadows and everything are handled pretty well. No black crush or anything like that. And the Dolby Atmos is very immersive, and it gives you what you want from a Dolby Atmos presentation. I think people who pick it up will be very pleased. But Dune Prophecy has been handled well by HBO and Warner Brothers. Like I said, the only real drawback is just having the stacked disc. Do not like that. But check it out if you're a fan of the Dune franchise. And that is my series, or that is my show, full of series. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found something that interests you. Got everything from family fare to decidedly not family fare. Let me know in the comments what appeals to you, what you might be adding to your collection. I'm always interested to see what my viewers may be adding to their collection. It's a lot of fun. I appreciate anyone who comes back every week. I appreciate it so much. If there's something you want me to talk about in the future, make sure to leave a comment. I will be happy to add that to a future slate. Make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. I enjoy doing this every week. I will be back again next week with another vast group of titles. But until next time, enjoy these movies.